So continuing with the rapidly digestible starch, okay, words for your diabetic cases, or even for if you have PCODs, PCOS, try to avoid the rapidly digestible starch because you do not want insulin resistance to harm you further. Okay, so that is about rapidly digestible starch. Easily it is getting absorbed. Within 20 minutes, it will be absorbed, and your blood glucose levels will also be risen. Okay, slowly digestible starch, it is much better. Raw grains or pasta that is cooked al dente, okay, means it is not overcooked. Okay, it is just cooked enough so that the complex carbohydrates stay back in pasta. Okay, that is al dente pasta, and it is absorbed in 100 minutes, that is more than 1 hour. So you can imagine where 20 minutes is and where more than 1 hour is. So it is absorbed very slowly. Slowly digestible starch is absorbed very slowly. Okay, and it is usually seen in all your grains, your cereals and grains, millets. Okay, so these are slowly digestible starch. Resistant starch, they will not be absorbed. Okay, you don't eat resistant starch just for the sake of absorption or getting the glucose out of it. Resistant starch is usually seen in all the good source of fiber food. Okay, so these are the 4 different types of starches available as complex carbohydrates. Then we have dextrins. Dextrins are like it is a degradation of the products. 1 minute, I'm getting a call. 1 minute.
So dextrins, please don't worry about dextrins. That is for clinical use. Okay, don't worry about dextrins. It is for clinical use. So as a nutritionist or dietitian who is not in the clinical workplace, you are not supposed to use dextrins. It is only for critical. So non-starch polysaccharides, non-starch polysaccharides. So they are insoluble cellulose. Insoluble cellulose means what? Fiber. Okay, they will not be digested. They will stay in your intestine. They will undergo fermentation. They will absorb a lot of water out of the intestine. Okay, and they will motilize the movement of your intestine. Okay, it means you will not have constipation. If anyone who is suffering from constipation, non-starch polysaccharides, or in simple language, these are the dietary fibers. Okay, insoluble cellulose plus some glucans, gums, etc. These are the other terminologies which we use in dietary fibers. Okay, so insoluble non-starch polysaccharides are found in whole grains, which has its husk as well: wheat, maize, rice, corn, etc. Okay, these are insoluble non-starch polysaccharides. Brown rice, not the polished rice, brown rice. Okay, whole wheat flours, etc. Multigrains, ragi, millets. Okay, they all have dietary fiber. So these are also found in oats, barley, rye. Okay, so these are really good sources of food for people suffering from constipation issues. These have cellulose. Cellulose means it's fiber that will not be digested. We as humans, we cannot digest cellulose, but cattle can. Okay, like if you eat a grass, will you be able to digest it as it is? Uncooked grass. Why cannot you digest grass? Cattle who feed who are grass fed, etc., they can digest grass because their body, their intestine has the capacity to digest cellulose. Grass is full of cellulose. Okay, so they can digest grass, but human beings cannot. So non-starch polysaccharides are a combination of these cellulose like elements as well as some gums, pectins, etc. Gums and pectins your body can still take it. Okay, but cellulose, the body will leave it as it is. Okay, so next, coming to the function, the main function of your carbohydrate is to give you energy. Okay, and it is the most least expensive. Like carbohydrates you can get from ration shops, etc. The cost that you spent, your money that you spent to acquire carbohydrates is very low. Okay, very low. less so it's very less expensive, but your body can get as much as energy possible based on your daily activities. Okay, so the main function of carbohydrates, it's a really good source of energy. When you have carbohydrates, proteins, and fat, your body will first absorb carbohydrates to give you energy. Protein and fat will come later. Okay, and in Indian community, usually in Indian community, we have a large quantity of cereals, pulses, millets, etc. So our energy requirement is usually met through carbohydrate. Okay, we do not prefer fat or protein for our energy requirement. It is completely wholly sourced from carbohydrates. Okay, then we have a protein sparing function of carbohydrates. Means what happens is that we do not want to use protein for energy. Protein has other serious roles in the body, tissue repair, maintenance, etc. Okay, like these kind of different serious roles the protein has to do in your body. To spare the protein, to save the protein as much as possible, we do not go for protein for energy requirement. We stick to carbohydrates for energy requirement. Okay, that is protein sparing function. Then oxidation of fats. Oxidation of fats, it is like use of acetyl CoA. Okay, uh, coenzyme A, acetyl coenzyme A, and it forms that citric. It goes into the citric acid cycle, etc. These are the medical terminologies. Okay, these are the biochemistry of it, of how you are getting energy from fat. Okay, fat goes into the citric acid cycle, TCA cycle, etc. So for that, fat has to undergo oxidation. Okay, so that once the fat undergoes oxidation, fat can provide energy. Okay, it can be stored in the body for future energy. Okay, so what do you require for oxidation of fat? You require carbohydrates for the oxidation of fat. Okay, then in your nervous system, indispensability of your nervous system, the main source of energy for your brain is glucose. Your brain cannot take the energy from protein or fat. Lipids cannot provide energy for brain. Okay, your brain cannot take digested lipids. Your brain cannot take amino acids for energy. It requires glucose for survival. You deprive a human being of glucose, their brain will shut down. Okay, they will be brain dead. Okay, that's why even in keto diet, 5 to 10% of energy will definitely come from the carbohydrate based source. Okay, just for the sake of the well-being of the brain. Then role in muscle during whenever your muscles undergo contraction and relaxation, when you exercise, when you do repetitive exercises, etc. Okay, your muscle is in a contraction state, that relaxation state. Okay, so glycogen, again, glycogen is a complex carbohydrate stored in your body. Okay, glycogen is also stored in your muscles. Okay, these glycogens are the first one to undergo breakdown and give you quick energy. At least for an hour, 1.5 hours, you have to keep going. If you're training yourself, you're gymming, you're exercising, okay, you require continuous 1 to 2 hours of energy. From where do you get? You're not eating in between, right? Where do you get? You get it from the glycogen that is stored in the muscles. Okay, stored in liver. In your liver, at least for 6 months and all, you can store glycogen. Okay, and along with detoxifying action, it also influences the protein as well as fat metabolism. Liver also takes a major part. Okay, liver has a major part to play in protein and fat metabolism, and for that, carbohydrates do help. Stored glycogen, carbohydrates help the liver. Then heart, same muscle. Heart is also a muscular organ. Okay, heart muscles mainly require glucose as a source of energy for contraction, relaxation, to be active. Then ribose nucleic acid, full form of RNA. Okay, ribose nucleic acid, full form of DNA, dioxyribose nucleic acid. Okay, so what is this ribose? Okay, ribose, which is present in DNA, it is basically glucose. Okay, so for your DNA to be formed, to keep the integrity of the DNA, RNA, okay, ribose, the name ribose in ribose nucleic acid, deoxyribose nucleic acid. Okay, what is ribose? Ribose is glucose. It is carbohydrate. Okay. So conversion of fat, when like when you eat too much of food, when you eat too much of calories than what you burn. Okay. For example, you just require 1,500 kilocalories for a day, but you end up eating 2,500 kilocalories. So that additional 1,500 calories, what happens? That is converted into fat, and that fat is stored in your body. That's how you put on weight because of carbohydrates. Okay. Carbohydrates don't make you fat. When you can't control the portion sizes of carbohydrates in your diet, that will make you fat. Okay, that gets converted, that excess carbohydrates which is unutilized, which is not utilized for energy, that excess carbohydrates will be converted into fat, and it is stored in the body. For your gut bacteria, which kind of carbohydrate is good for your gut bacteria? If you remember, we have just now discussed in which scenario does fermentation takes place. We had a name, we had a specific name for that particular slide. Short chain, remember? Short chain carbohydrates. Short chain carbohydrates. Any food source that is a good example of short chain carbohydrates is good for your gut bacteria, because the carbohydrates that you eat, it is not just for your survival and not just for your energy requirement. It also provides sugars for your gut bacteria to survive and thrive. Okay, is it clear? So which kind, specifically which kind of carbohydrates is good for your gut bacteria? Please try to remember the names in the class itself, so it is easier for you in the future reference. Short chain carbohydrates. Okay, short chain carbohydrates is a good reference for gut bacteria. Okay, whatever food is a good source of short chain carbohydrates, it is good for your gut bacteria. Okay. Then we have dietary fiber. Okay, small amount of energy is given by dietary fiber, but it is negligible. It is completely negligible. Do not depend on the energy given by dietary fiber for your survival. Okay, usually fiber, what dietary fiber does is it will assimilate water out of the intestine into the lumen, so that there is lot of water content in your stool, in your feces when you defecate. Okay, in your when the motion that you pass, when there is a lot of water content into that motion, you will not suffer from constipation. Okay, it is very easy for you to uh, excrete. Okay, so that's the role that dietary fiber plays. Then we have amino acids, like alanine, aspartic acid, glutamic acid. These are different types of amino acids, but they have a carbon skeleton for it, for the synthesis of it. When your body wants to make these amino acids, there are certain amino acids that are essential, and certain amino acids are non-essential. So alanine, aspartic acid, glutamic acid, these are amino acids that are non-essential. Your body can make it on its own. Okay, so but for these essential non-essential amino acids to be made in your body, you require a carbohydrate. Okay, a carbon skeleton is required, which the carbohydrate will give, so that your body can make non-essential amino acids within itself. Okay, essential amino acids your body cannot make, you have to supply it from food. And structural component, for many organic compounds, carbohydrates are the precursors. Okay, first comes the carbohydrates, and based on the foundation of carbohydrates, other chemical enzymes, etc., hormones are made in your body. Okay, so carbohydrates are the first thing required for certain enzymes, for certain juices that your body secretes, for certain hormones that are produced. Carbohydrates are required as a recipe ingredient, okay, in your body. List of essential and non-essential amino acids we will see in the chapter of protein. Okay, because non-essential amino acids, even if you don't remember, essential amino acids, the name of it, you have to remember. Okay, not for the exam purpose, but whenever you go through articles or you read a material, you come across those names, you should know that this is a essential amino acid. Okay, so the examples of non-essential amino acids, there are around 9 non-essential amino acids, 9 or 10, and there are 10 essential amino acids. Okay, so that we will discuss in the protein chapter. So next, how the carbohydrates are digested, okay, or absorbed in your body. Okay, so in case of carbohydrates, the digestion starts in your mouth. Okay, in case of carbohydrates, digestion starts in your mouth. Okay, whatever is your dietary carbohydrate, it starts in your mouth because of salivary amylase. Salivary amylase is an enzyme that is present in your saliva. Okay, so it's an enzyme that can break down simple molecules of sugar. It cannot do next level digestion, but simple initial stages of digestion, salivary amylase can do for you in your mouth itself. Okay, so the digestion of the carbohydrates starts in your mouth itself. Okay, so as soon as you have a dietary carbohydrate, that is your food, first thing that is going to mix with the food is your saliva, which has salivary amylase. That's an enzyme. Okay, so what happens, what change takes place in the dietary carbohydrates? It converts itself into polysaccharides, dextrins, sucrose, lactose, maltose. Okay, this will go into your stomach for further digestion, further mixing up, churning, etc. It will reach your intestine along with pancreatic amylase, because pancreas will secrete its juices. Okay, and from the stomach, from the duodenum, in the duodenum, pancreas will release its juices. The food uh, that has been released from the stomach mixes up with this pancreatic juice, which has pancreatic amylase, another enzyme. Okay, so so the food that is mixed with pancreatic amylase will reach the small intestine. Okay, so from polysaccharides, it has successfully converted itself into monosaccharides. Okay, from dextrins, it has converted into glucose. Lactose has been converted into galactose. Okay, sucrose and maltose will be converted into fructose. Okay, so in this form, monosaccharides, glucose, galactose, fructose, in this form, your body can absorb the carbohydrates. Okay, your intestine can never ever absorb lactose, maltose, sucrose. It's not possible. It has to go further breakdown and convert itself into either glucose, galactose, or fructose. Okay, only in these three forms your intestine can absorb carbohydrates. Okay, and how does it absorb carbohydrates? Active transport, direct absorption. Okay, there are certain protein carriers that method is also used for absorption. And in presence of salt, if there is salt in the food, okay, whichever pathway sodium uses to get inside the intestine, glucose will also use the same pathway. Okay, whichever pathway sodium ions will use to go inside your intestine to be absorbed, glucose will follow that. Okay, so in presence of salt in your food, the digestion becomes easier. Okay, so that's a technique that you can use when you're cooking. Okay, whenever you're making any dessert or sweet, okay, anything, kheer, payasam, whatever you make, do you practice the concept of adding a pinch of salt into it, a pinch or a bit of salt into the desserts that you prepare? Because culturally it could be different. So next time, try to do this. Okay, add a pinch of salt in whatever sweets you prepare at home. Sweets that you get from outside, you do not have the control over it, but the sweets that you prepare at home, add a pinch of salt into it. Okay, if it is not used, like for some people for religious purposes, you do not use salt in the religious food, it's the prashads like that. Yes, it just to help in digestion. Okay, specifically to help in digestion, because what just I said, in presence of salt, okay, glucose, galactose, fructose are absorbed inside the body easily. Okay, it will the sweets will not stay in your intestine and create gas and other gastric issues. Okay, the desserts that you eat, it has to leave your intestine as soon as possible, either via absorption or in the presence of dietary fiber, it has to leave the intestine completely. If it stays there, if any desserts or sweets stay in your intestine, it will lead to gastric issues. Because in kids, you must have seen, you must have come across, when they eat a lot of chocolates, eat when children, they eat a lot of sweet or chocolate, what happens? Diabetic people can eat sweet, but they can go for the sugar free ones, or they have to do very severe portion control while eating desserts. Okay, stomach upset happens, and that why it is happening, because the desserts or too much of sweet what the kids have had, it's not moving, it is creating gas. Okay, it is creating gas in the stomach by being stuck there. Okay, so see, when you are eating desserts along with some other food, you don't have to worry about it. Okay, but usually when you go out, okay, you feel like eating some sweet just as it is. Okay, you eat it, and you are not having any food before it or after it. Okay, so like that, in such conditions, when you prepare a dessert, just to have it as it is, not with a meal or something, always add a pinch of salt. Okay, because in south it is seen that whenever payasam or kheer is prepared, salt is added into it. Okay, it enhances the taste, as well as the reason is, scientific reason is, presence of salt will make sure glucose is absorbed in the body. Okay, am I audible to all? Okay, so monosaccharides finally can enter your bloodstream. Once it is inside the intestine, the next thing is it will be shown up in your bloodstream. Okay, so next, absorption of carbohydrates. The end product of carbohydrate digestion are glucose, fructose, and galactose. As I mentioned, when it enters a small intestine, it has to be in these format, either glucose or fructose or galactose. Okay, these are readily absorbed by the intestine mucosal cells directly into the bloodstream. Okay, two mechanisms are responsible for this. One is facilitated transport, and one is active transport. We will see both of this, facilitated transport and active transport. So in this example, in the if the image is clear, notice there are certain protein channels. Can you see this particular channel here where I'm moving my cursor? It's like a tunnel. It's like a tunnel. Is it visible to all? So this is a protein channel. Okay, so your carbohydrates, your glucose, fructose, galactose, they can use this channel as well, this protein channel as well, to enter the intestine. This is extracellular place. This is where the food is. The carbohydrates mixed with pancreatic amylase, etc. enzymes. The food is here. Okay, this is the intestinal lining. They have to cross over from an extracellular space. They have to go into the intracellular space. So if protein channels are present along the linings, carbohydrates can take the protein channel. You can see how the carbohydrate molecules are entering the protein channels. Okay. Then we have carrier proteins. Carrier proteins are specifically designated proteins that will take up the sugar molecules and push it inside. Take up the sugar molecules, push it inside. Okay, that is carrier proteins, and that is also a form of active transport. Okay. So this when you use these kind of channels or carrier proteins, that is called facilitated diffusion. Why? Your carbohydrate is getting a help. Okay, some channels, some carrier proteins are helping, is facilitating, it is helping it out to come inside the intestine. That is facilitated diffusion. The use of these kind of channels and carrier proteins, it is already present in your intestinal lining. Okay, you don't have to put it there from some other point of view. This is how your in the anatomy of the intestinal lining is already. Okay, so this is facilitated diffusion. Okay, is it clear to all what is facilitated diffusion? The use of protein channels, carrier proteins, etc. That's the meaning of facilitated diffusion. Is it clear to all? Because the terms could be very difficult for you when you're hearing the words like facilitated diffusion, active transport, especially for people who are not from the science background. So this is the technicality of it. Okay, active transport means you don't require any channels, directly it will be absorbed. Okay, when the sodium ion is getting absorbed, it will pull some glucose also along with it. Directly it will absorb, it does not require specific areas like channels or carrier proteins. No, not required. Any part of the intestinal villi can just pull the glucose. That's it. That is easy, active transport. Okay, so here you can see glucose, like how the active transport is taking place. See, glucose, galactose, fructose. Okay, glucose and galactose, they use the same co-transporter. Co-transporter means they use the same transporter to get inside. Okay, so sodium and glucose co-transported, and the sodium ions will also use the sodium glucose co-transporter just to get inside the intestine. Okay, but fructose requires glucose transporter. Okay, fructose will not use what co-transporter sodium uses. Okay, fructose is the glucose that comes from sugar, that comes from fruits. Okay, fruits have natural sweetness to them. That is because of fructose. Okay, glucose is what you get from cereals, pulses, whatever source of food, yeah, that you cook and eat from the food groups. Okay, apart from foods, that is glucose. Okay, galactose comes from dairy milk. Okay, so fructose cannot use this co-transporter. Fructose uses the glucose transporter and gets inside the intestine. Okay, sodium ion as well as glucose, they both use the same co-transporter to get inside the intestine. And once these glucose, fructose, and galactose, you can see the three dots, colorful dots. Okay, you can and color keys are also given on this left side. So once they are inside the intestine, okay, now they have to go outside the intestine into the bloodstream. So they will use glucose co-transporter 2. This is glucose transporter 5 to enter. Fructose uses glucose transporter 5 to enter, but to leave the intestine and to get inside the bloodstream, okay, glucose transporter 2 is used. Okay, so is this image self-explanatory? Once you look at the image, are you getting the idea of it, how active transportation takes place? Here you can see no protein channels, no protein carriers are being explained. Okay, what kind of co-transporters these three carbohydrates use to get in and get out of the intestine? Is it clear to all? So this particular absorption, active transport, and facilitated diffusion, in detail they have explained in on page number 33. Okay, in paragraphs. You may find that a bit tricky, bit difficult, because about ATP's energy exchange also they have added some points, but just understand the concept of it, from these two slides, that's more than enough. Okay, just focus on that. And remember, sodium and glucose, it uses the same co-transporter to enter the intestine. Okay. So metabolism, direct utilization, as soon as the as soon as it enters the bloodstream, it goes to cells that requires energy, and the glucose is dumped into the cells that require energy. That is direct utilization. Conversion to glycogen, when utilization is being done, when the cells have used up glucose as much as required, now there is extra glucose that is roaming around in your circulation. What to do about this? If the blood sugar level stays high, that is uh, that is deadly for the human being. Okay, so what mechanism do we have? We have the mechanism of converting this excess glucose into glycogen and storing it into muscles and liver, so that blood glucose levels come down. Okay, once this conversion is done, blood glucose levels will come down. Okay, the human is safe from any critical incidents. Then conversion of fat, when there is too much of glycogen as well. Okay, too much of glucose and glycogen is present in the body, that excess of glycogen as well as glucose will be converted into fat, stored into your adipose tissue. That's how you get obese or overweight. Okay, over a period of time, it doesn't happen within a day. Over a period of time, when you are consuming more food than what you expend, okay, what happens is that this extra glucose, extra glycogen, it will consume the space of your body, convert themselves into fat, and it is stored inside the body in the form of adipose cells. So how do you maintain the blood glucose levels? First is insulin. Which gland secretes insulin? Which gland secretes insulin? Pancreas. Okay, pancreas will also secrete glucagon, which increases your blood glucose level, but insulin, it decreases your blood glucose level. Okay, so that's how your blood glucose levels are maintained. One is the presence of insulin. Next is glucagon. When blood glucose levels are too low, that is again threatening, life threatening to the person. So to increase the blood glucose levels, glucagon is secreted. Glucagon will convert the glycogen back into glucose and dump it into the bloodstream. So immediately your blood glucose levels will rise. Okay. So insulin and glucagon is secreted by the pancreas. Then we have epinephrine. Which gland secretes epinephrine? Any idea? People who are from the science background? Yeah, it's the adrenal gland. Okay, adrenal gland, adrenal medulla. Okay, not the cortex, but the adrenal medulla. Okay, medulla is the outer layer of the adrenal, outer segment of the adrenal gland. Adrenal glands are found on top of your kidneys. Okay, so epinephrine is a hormone, or the another name of epinephrine is adrenaline. Okay, so it gives the body push. Okay, fight or flight hormone. That's what we call. Okay, when you are in dire circumstances, either you have to run from a situation or you have to face the situation. Okay, and your energies are low. Epinephrine is the hormone that gives you that quick boost of energy to run away or to face the situation. Okay, that's the fight or flight hormone. Okay, so this epinephrine also immediately, it will lead to the breakdown of glycogen stored in liver and the muscle. Okay, and immediately your blood glucose levels will rise, which will give you energy to carry out your critical functions. Then we have glucocorticoids. Again, it's an adrenal hormone, but it is secreted by the adrenal cortex. Cortex is the central part of the adrenal gland. Okay, adrenal medulla is the outer part of the adrenal gland, but cortex is the central part. Okay, so central part of the adrenal gland is supposed to secrete glucocorticoids, steroid hormones. Okay, they also influence your blood glucose levels by making sure that new glucose is generated from glycogen. Same mechanism like epinephrine and glucagon. Okay, gluconeogenesis. There is a terminology called gluconeogenesis. When you see that for the first time, you may get scared, but you break down. Gluco means what? Glucose. Neo, what is the meaning of neo? Neo, neo. Why do we use the terminology of neo and to represent what? Yes, neo means new. Okay. And what is genesis? What is genesis? Generational production or making. Okay. Yeah. So gluconeogenesis. New glucose molecules are generated or produced. Okay. So corticoids lead to the formation of new glucose. But from where do we get the new glucose? It is from breaking down the glycogen. Okay. Then we have thyroxine. Which gland secretes thyroxine? Yes, it is a thyroid gland. Thyroxine is secreted by the thyroid gland. So what thyroxine does not have direct effect on your blood glucose level, but it has an indirect effect. Okay. Thyroxine will go and send the message that we require more glucocorticoids. Okay. Or more epinephrine is required. Okay. Or glucocorticoids are required. So once epinephrine and glucocorticoids are released, glucose level will also release. Okay. So thyroxine will not cause direct increase. Thyroxine will lead to indirect increase of blood glucose levels. Okay. But as soon as your blood glucose levels starts to fall down, thyroid gland, okay, if it is a healthy functioning thyroid gland, it will suggest the thyroxine to be released. This increased amount of thyroxine in the blood, in your blood, is a message for your adrenal gland to release more epinephrine. Okay, and once more epinephrine is released, your body gets the hint of it that we require more glucose. So glycogen has to be broken down. Okay. Then we have growth hormone. Which gland secretes growth hormone? Yes, it is the pituitary gland. Pituitary gland is also called as the master gland of your body. Okay. Why? Because the hormones that the pituitary gland produces and secretes, it can control the functioning of all the other glands in your body. Okay. That's the function of pituitary gland. So blood glucose levels are increased by increasing the amino acid uptake, that is the protein uptake. Okay. And growth hormone and protein has a direct relationship. You increase the amount of protein in your diet, your growth hormone increases. But as like I'm addressing to all adults here. Okay. What is the role of growth hormone in an adult life? Definitely for kids and teenagers, it is to increase their height. Okay. Their body has to develop. That's the function of growth hormone. But as adults, why do we require growth hormone? Any idea? Maintain what specific area do we want to maintain with the help of growth hormone? We have to maintain our lean muscle mass. Okay, muscles and organs also we have to maintain. Importantly, we have to maintain our lean muscles. If you want to gain more lean muscle, okay, you require growth hormone. And if you want growth hormone secretion to increase your growth hormone secretion, you require protein. Okay, protein also gives you energy. Protein also gives you energy. Okay, so increased amount of amino acids will lead to increased amount of growth hormone. Growth hormone will maintain your body. It will increase your lean muscle mass. Okay, so that your metabolism stays high. If you have more lean muscle mass, naturally your metabolism will stay high. Okay, when your lean muscle mass increases, your fat composition decreases. Okay, when lean muscle mass increases, fat composition decreases. That's how your metabolism improves. You can put off the weight, okay, and you can keep your keep excess weight off your body for a pretty long time. Okay, that is the function of growth hormone. Next, coming to RDA, minimum 100 gram of carbohydrates is required on a daily basis, keeping in mind that your brain requires glucose for its daily survival. Okay, so the minimum requirement of carbohydrate on a daily basis is 100 gram. Okay, and this is to prevent the state of ketosis. Ketosis, I guess you all know from where the word comes from. When glucose is not there, when your body does not get glucose, okay, your body tries to break down fat and take the ketone bodies. Ketone bodies are the byproduct of fat metabolism. Ketone bodies are used for energy. Okay, but ketone bodies cannot be used for your brain's energy. Okay, your brain cannot work on ketone body energy. Okay, it requires glucose energy. So minimum you have to maintain at least 100 gram of carbohydrates you eat on a daily basis. Even if you are on a keto diet, you maintain that minimum 100 gram. However, when you have a very balanced diet, 60% of the total calories should come from carbohydrates. Remember that 60% of the total calories in a balanced diet comes from carbohydrate. Okay, that's an important fact. Tomorrow, when you make a menu plan, okay, you may have a question that this is the total calorie. For example, 2000 kilocalorie is what this person has to eat. Okay, how much calorie I can give them from carbohydrates, how much should I give them from protein, how much should I give them from fat. Okay, remember 60% is from carbohydrates in a balanced diet. Okay, and the balanced diet is not for everyone. Okay, people who suffer from cardiovascular diseases, okay, nephrology disorders, kidney disorders, cancer disorders. Okay, based on these various disorders a person goes through, okay, balanced diet is not recommended. They have to eat to get well. Okay, so here 60% of calories should come from carbohydrates is for balanced diet. Balanced diet is for an healthy individual free from disease conditions. Okay, please remember that. 20 gram of resistant starch. You can have 20 gram of resistant starch. It will make sure that your digestive movement, okay, peristalsis movement, digestive movement is intact. You don't suffer from constipation. Okay, 20 gram of resistant starch. So food sources of great food sources of carbohydrates. I don't think so. We require a example sheet here. We all know what are our best sources of carbohydrates in an Indian diet. Okay, all your cereals, pulses, bread, milk, fruits, tubers, bananas, fruits. Okay, sugar and jaggery that you use as sweeteners. Okay, these all are your sources of carbohydrates. Okay, there is no specific table which we have to show because we already know about carbohydrates. We know what are the food sources. Okay, the majority of the part Indian plate or thali takes place, that is of carbohydrates. Okay, majority of an Indian thali, it is not recommended, but still it is